You come from South Sudan.
Yeah.
Why did you leave your country?
Yeah, I leave my country because my country they have a war, and then we have in the wet station there.
And how long did it take you to get to France?
I take 1 year in the road.
1 year.
1 year on the road.
And you brought your 2 children with you?
Yeah.
So Piol, how long have you been here in Dunkirk?
Oh, I come last week, I think so, because I have only 1 week in free. Yeah.
These are some of the immigrants who are entering the United Kingdom, Europe, America, and other countries. Why are they going there? To look for greener pastures. There are no opportunities in their countries, Africa and other countries around the world. Their leaders, some of them are dictators, some of them are not caring about these young people. And for them, they hear and they look or they see at the news that in the Western world, life is better. So they want to go there to get that green pasture which is there. And in the UK right now, there is a lot of people on the streets demonstrating, rioting about the immigrants, illegal immigrants. And some of the hotels where these immigrants have been harboring, or the government where it has been putting these immigrants, the hotels are now under siege. These hotels are where immigrants are being kept. The protesters have attacked them mainly in South Yorkshire. Yeah, it's Yorkshire. South Yorkshire. The hotel which has been harboring these immigrants is attacked and is being smashed. They are saying, go back to your countries. We don't want you here. We don't want to see you in our country. Please go back to your country. That's in the United Kingdom. Let's watch this video and see really what's taking place in England.
Stumped over, it's stumped over. We've tipped over boiling point here. They're in there. Go in there!
Oh, wow. They all went upstairs at long.
They're in the hotel, guys. Ow.
The UK has been grappling with the arrival of migrants risking everything to reach England, often traversing continents and oceans, on perilous journeys from northern France to Dover.
They are scenes that are now happening daily in towns and cities across the country. In Liverpool, police officers coming under attack from a far-right mob. A number of officers injured as they dealt with what was described as serious disorder. Police in running battles with some of those in the city streets. They knew protests were planned, but images show the scale of the crowds. And this just a few miles from Southport, where the attack on children at a dance class seemingly lit the fuse. Similar scenes in Nottingham, bottles thrown as fighting broke out. And in Blackpool, where more fighting broke out in the crowd, their loyalties very clear.
Any person organising or taking part in the procession is committing an offence.
In Belfast too, a hotel housing migrants was the target, leading to clashes with police. More than 24 protests have taken place across the country. Last night it was Sunderland that saw the worst of the violence, its streets bearing the scars today and prompting this warning that those responsible will face action.
Well, the police need to lead operations in communities across the country where there has been both violent disorder and thuggery on the streets, which is completely unacceptable, completely damaging, and where the police need to know they have our full support, taking the strongest possible action, making sure that these criminals face the full force of the law.
In Manchester today, a supermarket was ransacked by a mob as they ran from police. But the city also saw one of the many counter-protests today, anti-fascists marching with their message. A sense that some are not willing to stand by as the wave of summer violence rolls on, and among others, whatever the response.
Since January, over 8,000 people have landed on the English coast, setting a record for this period, but at least 15 have died in the process. As of 2022, about 14% of the UK's population was foreign-born, a figure comparable to affluent nations like the US and the Netherlands, but lower than in countries like Australia, Canada and New Zealand.
Let's talk about the migrant crisis, because that continues to go on. I've been away for 2 weeks, but they still haven't managed to smash the gangs or stop the boats. There's a record number of people now coming into this country, over 16,500, 2,000 more, I think, than the same period last year. But have a look at this video. I don't know if you've seen this, David, this morning. This is shot yesterday off the coast of Calais, just off Dunkirk.
This is for Rishi Sunak!
Fairly succinctly put, this is for Rishi Sunak. There's a bunch of migrants on what they're calling a taxi boat, which appears to fox the French authorities. It comes out at one sort of side of Dunkirk, goes up the bay a little bit and then comes back in, then joined by a load of people on it. But this is for Rishi Sunak. Sends a pretty clear message that they know what's going on, these migrants. It's not as if they're just coming here hoping for the streets to be paved with gold because they believe something they were told by a people trafficker. They do know what's going on politically.
Yes, yeah, and we, you know, I've had colleagues over in France actually talking to migrants in the past, and it's, you know, they do know what was going on. There were people waiting there to see what happened as a result of the election and whether Rwanda would go ahead or not. I'm still not personally convinced that Rwanda would have been the solution, frankly. I mean, nobody was actually ever sent on one of his planes, and it did cost a small fortune. Even with no dissent. But, you know, in the end, Labour have just run into a problem which the Conservatives, as you know, have had for the last 2 years of just not really being able to deal with this. Of course, as soon as the weather gets good, then people start coming over again in large numbers, and they will do. There seems to be no real means of stopping them at the moment.
No, quite. And just one final question. We just spoke to Peter Blexley about this terrible, awful incident up in Southport yesterday, and the need, as he says, for somebody to do something about the way that these violent attacks are continuing, the way that knife crime is being, you know, something that everybody now is affected by. What chance is there of the Labour government getting tough on law and order?
Well, the last Labour government, it was one of the things which Tony Blair was actually pretty good on, was getting tough on law and order with, the ASBOs and all the rest of it. It'd be interesting to see if
Yeah, but the issue is why these immigrants are moving from their countries to Europe. Why are they moving from their countries to America? Why people from Africa are freeing their fertile lands, are freeing their rich motherland to go and stay in Europe, to go and stay in England, to go and stay in America? Because they think things there are okay. They think there are green pastures, there are opportunities. The leadership in those countries is fine. People are catered for. In those countries, there is future. So people, they are looking for freedom. They are looking for opportunities. And they are looking for their dreams. So they think they can't get their dreams in Africa. They can't get their dreams in somewhere else. But only England. They think England is a land of freedom, is a land of opportunity. America is a land of freedom, is a land of opportunities. That's why people are fleeing from their countries to those countries. But what brought this? That's the core issue. We should all ask ourselves why people are leaving Africa and other countries to Europe, to America. Yet in the past years, people were being forced, taken as slaves to those countries, but now they are willingly taking themselves. Why? We should all ask ourselves that question. And if we get the answer to that question, there will become an end to immigrants from other countries to Europe. People will stop migrating from their homelands to UK and America if we address the question why people are fleeing from their countries.
Is going to pick up that side of the kind of Blairite agenda. He certainly has picked up other sides of it. So let's see, actually. I mean, it certainly needs to happen. I mean, speaking as somebody who lives in London, I'm not exactly been overly impressed by Sadiq Khan's control of knife crime, or lack of control of knife crime in the capital. But I mean, incidents like yesterday are just, they're almost unimaginable. I mean, it was I can't remember anything quite as bad as that for a long, long time. I mean, it was a truly freak incident, but, absolutely dreadful. And of course,
Migration levels by accounting for arrivals and departures is frequently used in UK policy discussions.
I've argued with every immigration lawyer I've ever been on with, except for you, because I think you see it and you're honest and you're open. Let's just take what Rebecca just said, because it's true. Let's put aside for 1 minute the absolutely true comment that you said that there are refugees who deserve asylum. We proved as a country that during Ukraine. What I want to hear from you is an answer that nobody's given me. France is not a war-torn country. We are giving £500 million of British money for the French to basically leave the problem to us. They don't patrol their beaches. People in their waters end up here. Nobody wants to see the deaths. But there is a feeling, David, alongside a desire to do what's right by people who genuinely flee war-torn countries. There are many people in this country saying, hold on a second, it seems to be us. We seem to be the last port of call. We are all struggling, and yet we are seemingly being, I'm not saying overrun, all those dreadful phrases from Braverman, but we seem to have the mickey taken. And I think that's where people's frustration lies. Do you understand that?
Absolutely, and I think one of the problem that we've got, and this is something that the Conservatives a few years ago were looking at addressing, is that whatever policy we put in place, when we look at the Rwanda one, however it gets through, whether it does or not, it's going to face two issues, the Human Rights Act and the European Court of Human Rights. And until we change those existing laws or disapply them and their institutions in Europe, and obviously the human rights.
However, this measure has limitations, such as not revealing who is arriving or departing or their impact.
Rights has changed and expanded since it was first implemented. Now, from a human rights perspective, I want to see protection for those whose lives are genuinely at risk and they're in need urgent assistance. that is something that I think, we absolutely must protect around the world. I think what we're seeing in Europe is an absolute widening of that, where, I'm a gay man, for instance, and even in England, I get discriminated against over a few things here and there. That doesn't mean, in my view, that I should be able to go to America and claim asylum. But that's a lot of I'm not saying everyone, but there's a lot of issues now in immigration and in legal immigration where people are having similar things, where they'll be able to claim asylum on the basis of things which really aren't where their life is at urgent and immediate risk.
And
so
I think you know what I love? I love your honesty, and I do love talking to you because you look at all sides. That's the point.
Recent official estimates for net migration are uncertain and have been revised. For instance, the Office for National Statistics, ONS, revised its 2022 net migration estimate up by 26%, reaching 685,000 in 2023.
Do you hear that? People are coming from Africa, are coming from other parts of the world, and they go to France because the coast, it's France where they are harboring, and after reaching France, they don't stay in France. No, they go in England. Then who is transporting this, or who is making these people known to stay in France and go to England? Why they don't love France? Why they don't say, okay, we've reached France, now let's stay in France? They say, no, we're going to England. We have to ask ourselves a lot of questions. Why people are moving from their momland to England? There the question is, and we must address that question. If we don't get the answer to that question, we will not stop this immigration. People moving from their homelands to other countries, and freely. It's hot. There's no opportunities. There's no freedom. People are looking for freedom. There is no dream. They can't search their dreams. They can't chase their dreams in their African countries, in their home countries. So they decide to go to United Kingdom, where they think, hey, maybe we can achieve our dreams.
Significant increase from pre-pandemic estimates.
This is the so-called New Jungle, a sprawling migrant camp near Dunkirk on the French coast. It's where migrants come to negotiate a fee for a place on a dinghy to the UK. Around 190...
You see, they even pay to go to UK. They are somebody negotiate with, please take us to UK. Not France, because we've reached a France border. And it's easier for us to enter France. But no, we don't want France, we want to go to UK. Please, how much? They pay, somebody take them to UK.
20 miles south is Paris, where up to 45,000 cops and soldiers are guarding the Olympic Games. A former border force chief told us he's worried it will provide a golden opportunity to the people smuggling gangs. Nairobi, you come from South Sudan.
Yeah.
Why did you leave your country?
Yeah, I leave my country because my country, they have a war, and then we are in the situation there.
And how long did it take you to get to France?
I take 1 year in the road.
1 year?
1 year on the road.
And you brought your 2 children with you?
Yeah.
So Piol, how long have you been here in Dunkirk?
Oh, I come last week, I think so, because I have only 1 week in free. Yeah.
And you're sleeping in a tent here?
Yeah. I was one day in Cali, and 4 days here, I think so.
You're both from Afghanistan.
In April, migrants were seen being rescued by a British boat and registered with the Home Office before being housed in welfare hotels.
Yeah.
You see, they are housed in hotels and given food to stay in the UK. That's why people, they do love to go into United Kingdom, because they are given free houses, free food. And here, you remember in the first video we did, those demonstrators people from England, they were asking, we pay tax, and the tax we pay is catering for immigrants. And we have our natives here. They are homeless. They are not catered for. Why our money is being used on immigrants and not on our people here that are homeless? Why not the government putting public houses for the people of England who are homeless to get where to sleep? That's why you see riots in England. They say we are not about, this is not about racism. We are not about somebody's color. No, we are about those illegal migrants are entering our country. You first assess somebody. Is he really entering the United Kingdom legally? If he's entering the United Kingdom legally, we don't have any problem with that. But these illegal migrants, they are taking out our country. That's their complaints, the rioters, the demonstrators, all are around the streets of England. And I'm still sticking on my question. We should address that question. Africa really was messed up. And who messed up Africa? England. England messed up Africa. People wouldn't have been fleeing from their rich motherland Africa to England. But because England messed up with our continent, that's why everybody say, let me go there. Because you messed up with my continent, let me come and mess up with your continent. You see? Let me come there and you take care of me because you messed up my motherland, which would have taken care of myself. So, people are saying, let's migrate to England, maybe life will be better.
So I will go, but I don't like to go to Rwanda, but I want to go to UK, and then I will go to UK, but I never return back to Rwanda.
You hear that? There is that scheme that all immigrants are gonna be transported to Rwanda and they be there. You remember the last Prime Minister, they finished that deal with Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, and they pressed structures in Rwanda where those immigrants can be harbored and they taken care of. But immigrants are saying, we're not going to Rwanda. I know where Rwanda is. It is in Africa. I will not go there. And I never wanted to go there. I want United Kingdom. I want to live in England, not Rwanda. If it was to go and stay in Rwanda, I would have gone to Rwanda. But Rwanda and my country all the same. So I will not go to Rwanda. I have come here. You see the fight? England say, let me take these immigrants to Rwanda. And the immigrants saying, no, we not go to Rwanda. We want to be here. We know what's taking place in Rwanda. It's the same taking place in our country, South Sudan. So why do you take me to Rwanda, the same country as mine, South Sudan? No, me, I want to be here in the UK.
Because when we're coming, Rwanda is Africa also. Yeah. If we need to go to Rwanda, so I cannot come with Mediterranean Sea. Then I will go to Rwanda there.
Well, they've now stopped this. They're not going to send anyone to Rwanda now. That's finished.
It's finished?
It's finished.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you hope for your children, your dreams for your children when you get to the UK?
So I cannot say now because I never reached there. I never got a job. So let me reach there. So everything will be okay.
When will you know when to go to the beach?
Some, like 17-year-old Mohammed from Western Sahara, are disillusioned and desperate to return to France after being let down by their English dream.
Wave after wave, as violence descended. Scenes across the country now at risk of becoming normalised. Among the worst, Liverpool, parts of it set on fire, including a library. The morning after, and the city still smoulders.
Disgusting.
It's a reason for violence. It's not certainly not in my name. Nazis burn books. These have gone one step further and burnt a library down.
Protests, yeah, but not actually going around damaging things. That's not going to work. It's just going to get you in a lot of trouble.
Disorders swept across the UK in the wake of the Southport knife attacks. catalysed by disinformation online.
There's a differential between what happened on Tuesday in Southport and what happened here. Definitely on Tuesday there were people bussed in from all over the country because we know that, because we see the travel patterns. This was more about local youths being stirred up by social media, by that communication of everybody, let's get together and all that.
Mohammed and others, like Mahmoud from Jordan and Aladdin from Syria, face a grim reality. They hoped for a better life but find themselves in limbo due to the slow asylum process, lack of work opportunities and ongoing uncertainty.
Domestically, Sean, Labour has today pledged that illegal migrants who arrive from safe countries will have their asylum applications prioritised by plans that will process claims for more than 100,000 small boats arrivals.
But nobody could come from a safe country to go to England. Someone leaving a country to decide now, let me go to England. It means where he's coming is fire. It's not safe for him. People are looking for asylum because the politics, because the leaders, their countries, they are bad leaders, they are dictators, they are killing them, they are abducting them, they are torturing them. So they say, let me go to England, maybe their life will be okay. In my country, everything is hard. There's no opportunity, there is no future. I can't search my dream. I can't chase my dreams here. Let me go to UK, England. Maybe my dreams will come true. But nobody is coming from a safe country and say, let me go to England. Let me spend a year on water. Let me spend 6 months on water. Let me really put my life in danger. In looking for a better life. No. Africa is hot. Those countries where people are living to go and live in England, in the US, in other areas, really those countries are hot. And all these problems were brought by you, the leaders of United Kingdom, the leaders of US, the leaders of France, the leaders of Germany. You, the leaders in those countries, are the ones who brought all up this mess. You played with our continent, Africa. You brought dictators to us. We had our leaders. You disorganized our systems because you wanted to loot us, to take all our wealth, to take all our minerals, to take all the richness that our continent Africa had. So you decided, okay, let's destroy Africa. And now what we expected? This is the outcome. This is the result. Because you destroyed our continent, so we have nothing left for us. Let's find a way to share our minerals you took in your countries. Let's come there and enjoy the wealth of our continent that you took to your land. That's why people are moving to their countries. You just do us one favor. Don't allow dictators in Africa, because dictators are your puppets. In the name of fighting crimes, fighting terrorism, fighting fighting wars or instability, fighting instability in Africa. So you live there, dictators, that they are helping you to keep Africa calm, yet you found Africa was calm. And all these wars that are in Africa are your results. And now, Africans say, no, we are dying in our countries. These white men, their governments are not helping us. Only they are pumping our dictators to rule us. They are pumping our dictators to kill us, to torture us. They are doing nothing because they are benefiting from these dictators. So let's find a way to reach where they are, and we share the little they have. No matter what come, what may, we must go there. And this is all what is happening. UK is now in a mess because of the things it did in the beginning. When your leaders came to Africa, they changed everything that was in Africa. They created artificial states that were not there. And they imposed to us artificial leaders. Those leaders without a heart, those leaders who are not human, who don't have any decency in their minds, who don't love to see people happy. Those are the leaders that are groomed by United Kingdom and other countries. And those are the leaders that are ruling Africa. And those are the puppets of your countries. And Africans are suffering. People in those countries are really on a hot plate. That's why now they say, let's go there. Let's go there. But you see where things are going? We must address that question. How can we get Africa stable? If Africa gets stable, United Kingdom, England will be stable. United States will be stable. Germany will be stable. The world will be stable. There will not be crimes. Now we've started feeling that crimes are everywhere. But what will lead to this?
Yvette Cooper, of course, the new Home Secretary, will announce a change in the law that will enable Home Office caseworkers to process the claims of migrants who arrived illegally over the last 18 months. It's estimated the move, Sean, could lead to up to 70,000 migrants being granted asylum in the UK. What are your thoughts on this about Labour?
Oh, I think Yvette Cooper's got a big challenge on her hands, but I think learning, for example, that the previous administration had 1,000 civil servants working on the Rwanda scheme, and we didn't manage to return a single person, says that actually there's quite a lot of resource inside the Home Office, which if it's deployed and create something like the Returns and Enforcement Programme, which Yvette Cooper is getting up and running, puts us in with a much better chance of getting on top of this than we faced for the last few years. But let's, be realistic. Everybody is facing a problem with migration. Every European country is facing a problem with it. The United States has a problem with it. This is not unique to the UK. The question is, what can you do about it? And I think in just a few weeks, Yvette Cooper has already shown...
Yes, that's the question. That's the question. What should we do for this? What can we do for this? We must answer that question. Why people are leaving their countries? Why? What happened? What is going wrong? What are we not addressing? That forcing people to leave their countries, to Europe, to America, to everywhere. Because even America is on a hot spot. I told you the subway shops in New York, they are all closed because ganga men are going there, attack people, steal everything from them. And no business is now taking place in all subways in New York, because gangsters are coming and steal. They claim that they are immigrants, and it's New York where immigrants are harbored. It's the city that allows immigrants, whether illegal or not illegal, to be housed, to be given a place where to stay as they process on the way forward. And people say now these immigrants have started attacking all the businesses in New York. Now, you see, the problem is not only for England, but for Germany, it's for France, it's for US, it's for every country. But why this? What really went wrong? We must address that point. That's why this is what this guy was asking or was addressing, that we must address the why question.
But probably she has considerably more of a plan than the idea of a Rwanda scheme, which has cost nearly £1 billion to the taxpayer and not managed to deal with a single individual.
I wasn't a fan, James, as you know, of Rwanda, and Sean is right in terms of how much that cost. My concern about safer migrants to get processed first. On the one hand, that's great. Let's deal with illegals. To be told that nearly 70,000 to clear the backlog will be granted asylum in the UK out of 100,000 to get it done, that's not going to do much to quell whatever people on whatever political side say. I think Sean's right. An issue that cuts across the political divide and is annoying and alienating and getting to many, many people, not just in this country but across Europe. I don't know what the bloody answer is, but do Labour have the answer? I mean, what, 2,250 plus migrants have come in since they came into power. It's no different than when the Tories. Can they make a difference? What do you make of it all?
No, it's going from despair to whatever a word for worse than despair is. We got, 70,000 people. That means that's about half of all of the total new houses that we're going to be probably building this year. Total this year. I think last year we managed to build a tiny number, 130,000 homes, something really pitiful like that. And by the way, I'm not at all sure that Labour are going to be able to get those numbers up unless they go and really upset all the kind of NIMBY groups who have been blocking house building for a long time. Even if they did, we've still got such a terrible housing crisis. House prices are so disastrous that people under the age of 50 are never going to be able to buy a house in somewhere like the southeast, let alone London at this rate. I'm still going to struggle to do that. I'm never going to be able to do that myself unless the banker mum and dad comes in or I win the lottery. Neither of those things are going to happen for me. So where are all these people going to live? Where are they going to live? Well, literally, that question, it could all be Shakespeare himself. Where are they going to live?
Aladdin, who has been in the UK for 3 years, the beach represents a stark contrast between their aspirations and their harsh reality.
As well as the legal migration, because it's just completely out of control. And tragically, we've had deaths since Keir Starmer was elected Prime Minister. And we've had, what is it, give or take 1,200?
Well, it's 1,185 migrants have come into this country across the Channel since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. As you say, 4 died, 63 had to be rescued. And, I mean, I would suggest this is the result of getting rid of all deterrence, not having a single deterrent. One of his first acts was to release 92,000 deportees who were ready to be deported to East Africa. What does he expect? I mean, you know, I know you won't want to pat James Cleverly on the back, but when James Cleverly, now the Shadow Home Secretary, said, Labour have effectively hung on the White Cliffs of Dover a sign saying everyone's welcome, he's pretty much right, isn't he?
No, he's completely wrong, Kevin. He hung the banner on the White Cliffs of Dover. He hung the banner 2 years ago. The useless, incompetent Clotterly is responsible for this mess with their daft Rwanda policy that was never going to be a deterrent. It was never going to be allowed. And they never had the guts and the gumption and the courage to do what was required, which was to leave the ECHR and to pick up and take back. It's only Reform UK that has that clear policy, and that's the only policy that will stop the boat. So we're not going to take any lessons from the guy who's responsible for this
Migrants like Mohammed, Mahmoud and Aladdin face a complex and frustrating journey.
Go to the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. This after the UK Home Office officials declared that Turkey was not a safe country to send migrants back because of the human rights concerns. London tried to set up a deal of migrants' return with Ankara after noting a surge in Turkish people entering Britain illegally through small boats. According to reports, 3,000 Turkish nationals arrived through boats last year, making them the third largest nationality to do so and representing a 162% increase.
Significantly, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is keen to strike a deal with Turkey, hoping that it will lead to a similar outcome with Albania. After signing a deal with Albania a year ago, the number of people arriving in the UK on small boats, it's fallen by 90%.
Speaking of the illegal migrants in the United Kingdom, according to the Home Office, over 30,000 illegal migrants are roaming freely on the streets of Britain. Due to UK's Illegal Migration Act, around 33,085 migrants are unable to claim asylum who enter Britain through small boats. The latest Home Office figures say a total of 1,335 migrants crossed the Channel in small boats in January.
The United Kingdom has witnessed a record number of migrants in 2022, with around 6,000 more people coming to the country than leaving because of studying, work, humanitarian purposes. In June 2023, in fact, 52,530 irregular migrants were detected entering the UK. That's a 17% increase from the previous year. 85% of these migrants arrived by a small boat.
The official system's promises of safety and new beginnings often lead to protracted waiting periods and ongoing struggles.
About time we had a proper look at the migrant crisis because, you know, let's face it, over the last week we basically had more than 2,000 migrants have come across the Channel, and that Labour seems to be systematically
dismantling everything that was erected in order to try to create a deterrent. And look, we all agree that the Rwanda scheme was fundamentally flawed because it was Rwanda, and all the lefties and hand-wringers are going to say it's not a nice enough place and it's all too dangerous and so on.
Homophobic.
But actually the idea of deporting people somewhere that doesn't sound too nice was a good one, because you need a deterrent. You need anyone who's considering making that discretionary journey from Calais over the water, over the Channel in a dinghy, to not think that they're going to be able to just assimilate, that they're going to be ushered in and welcomed and it's all going to be easy. So it was a good idea, but the details were fundamentally flawed. Secondly, we've got the Bibi Stockholm, which Keir Starmer has now indicated is going to be abandoned as well. The Bibi Stockholm has been a complete fiasco. This was the barge which is supposed to accommodate a few hundred migrants. Again, a good idea. What was the point of that barge? It was to send out a message to migrants that if you come here illegally, if you're economic opportunists, you cannot expect to be accommodated at UK taxpayer expense in luxury hotels. And I'm afraid there are still an awful lot of people, despite the last government's saying that they were going to move people out of hotels, they are still in hotels. So the idea was, let's put them in something that doesn't look too appealing. Now, this thing wasn't inhumane, was it?
It's quite nice, actually. The inside looked like a gym, had a restaurant.
I was actually looking at this today, and back in 2013, not so very long ago, so decades or so ago, the Bibi Stockholm was used by oil and gas rig workers up off the Isles of Shetland in Scotland.
For about 50 years.
And do you know what? They liked it so much that the company that contracted it, they actually extended the lease following, quote, such great feedback.
The tightening of immigration laws, including the controversial decision to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, has increased the sense of hopelessness.
International experience suggests that deterrence policies on their own don't tend to have that much of an impact.
The asylum application backlog has been on the rise since 2016, with more than 166,000 people awaiting a decision at the end of last year. While they wait, often in hotels, they're mostly unable to work. This all costs £6 million every day. Louise Calvi has worked with asylum seekers for 16 years and regularly visits asylum hotels.
You've got families living in one small room, kids trying to do their homework. You've got people sharing.
In Dover, a community cafe provides some relief for migrants. Bak, an Iranian migrant, plans a desperate crossing attempt using a flimsy boat he purchased after months of begging. His plan to cross the Channel in such a vessel highlights the dire conditions faced by many. Despite the risks, Bak is determined to reach France, believing it to be his only chance for a better future.
People who cross the Channel make up a small proportion of net migration figures, but it's what they symbolise which can anger the public, and that's a lack of control. Stopping the boats is a key Rishi Sunak pledge, and in Dover last week he said his plans are having an impact.
For the first time, numbers are down. So this year, January to May, the numbers crossing are down by 20%.
But just this morning, the Home Secretary acknowledged the challenges.
The numbers keep rising because the boats keep coming, and that is the flow of casework, and that is what we are also working on to reduce.
So with high numbers crossing the Channel in recent days, what's the full picture? This pink line shows the number of people who are detected arriving in the UK via small boats every month in 2022. The peak was in July at around 8,700 and a yearly total of nearly 46,000. For this year, there's only data up to May, but so far, more than 7,600 migrants have made the journey, which is around 2,000 less compared to the same time in 2022. The Migration Observatory, which analyses data in a non-partisan way, says it's too soon to say whether tougher policies, such as the proposed illegal migration bill, are having an effect.
To try and apply the idea that it's all about policy to the reasons that numbers have gone down is problematic. And as I say, it's likely to be premature.
Back's journey is fraught with danger. His small boat is inadequate for the treacherous waters of the Channel, and his attempt to leave leads to his arrest.
We like to say is in the high 60s, 68, 69 million, but I've heard estimates it could be 10 million more than that.
I think that's not at all out with the bounds of possibility. And, you know, there are, you often find that hospitals who are set up on the basis of a certain amount of people living in the area actually find that they are dealing with far, far more people than that. And these aren't just temporary visitors. They are basically a shadow population. God. And I think that I'm only at the beginning, on the edges of what I want to do investigating this.
Despite the setbacks, Bark remains resolute in his quest for a better life. The harsh realities of life in the UK drive him to such extremes.
The government would say that it's going to be moving thousands of asylum seekers into other types of accommodation, such as barges, and away from expensive hotels, which obviously cost the taxpayer. What do you make of that plan?
So if you wanted to save money, you would simply process those asylum decisions quickly. It doesn't take a long time to see that someone from Afghanistan needs status. I think this is about the performance of hostility. Barges aren't cheap, barges aren't free, and the consequence of putting someone on a barge, the impact on their ability to integrate, to find work, to learn English, their health outcomes are all disastrous for everyone.
The combination of new arrivals and a large asylum backlog impacts local authorities.
Aladdin, meanwhile, lights a fire for warmth and reflects on his disillusionment. His story underscores the broader issue of broken dreams among migrants who face delays and uncertainties in their asylum processes.
Into that lucrative revenue stream. So a very difficult summer probably ahead for the Labour government. They will learn fairly quickly how intractable this whole issue of trying to stop the boats coming across the English Channel is. With that breaking news now that the first small boat of the Starmer government has arrived in UK waters. Around about 50, we believe, migrants on board that boat are being transferred to the Border Force vessel Hurricane.
Can I just ask you briefly, Mark, how quickly can the new Home Secretary...
His time living on the beach and his eventual decision to seek a new path reflect the desperation many feel.
Other senior Labour figures, what they intended to do and where would they set the threshold for immigration, and you could never get any sense out of them. You could never get any figures. You could never get them to say, you know, we would aspire for it to be below this amount. You couldn't even get them to give ballpark. Why? Because so many people within the Labour Party basically ideologically want a semi-open doors policy. And I fear that is what we're going to get. And I also fear that the numbers that we know about from the last administration are far from the whole story. I think that there is an entire shadow population that is not accounted for. These are people who are coming over supposedly on short-term tourist visas or student visas, and they simply stay. And I don't think, you know, somebody wrote to me and said, oh, you know, but in the census of 2021, it says that there are X number of people. I thought, have you got any idea? A lot of these people do not even speak a word of English. You think they're filling out a census form? Seriously?
No, they're not, no. Yeah, you're right. We never take into account, you know, so hello, that some more migrants came across the Channel and they were greeted by the RNLI and then taken to a hotel and given 46 quid a week and all that sort of stuff, free food forever. We never take into account the ones that don't get caught. I mean, some of them must land and actually go into the country. Yeah. And then, of course, we also tend to make the mistake of thinking, oh, this is the only...
The situation for migrants in the UK has become increasingly dire, with tightening laws and aggressive government policies adding to their hardships. Many migrants, including Buck and others, explore alternative routes to escape their plight, leading to dangerous and risky ventures.
Labour are pledging, do you remember their ringing declaration? They're going to smash the people smuggling gangs. Well, we've got some breaking news on the illegal migration front. Because we're going to go to our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, for the latest. And I'm not surprised, Mark, what you're about to tell us.
Yes, indeed. We can reveal that the first small boat migrants of the new Labour government have now arrived in UK waters. They arrived in the English Channel at that halfway point just in the last few minutes. They're in the process of being taken off a small boat which was escorted across by a French patrol boat to that halfway point, and they're now being transferred onto the Border Force catamaran Hurricane for the journey back here to Dover Harbour, when they will go through what is now a routine process of being put through the Border Force Processing Centre here at Dover Harbour, before then being taken to the main processing and holding centre at Manston in Kent, and then of course being sent off to accommodation. Now it will be interesting to see in the coming days and weeks, when more of these small boat migrants arrive, as we expect, what Labour is going to do about that, because they've vowed to end the use of hotels as well. The hundreds of hotels that we saw under the last Conservative government that were requisitioned by the Home Office for use by about 50.
Backstory, which involves his failed attempt to cross the Channel and subsequent interactions with the police, is indicative of the broader struggles faced by migrants. His determination to leave, despite the dangers, reflects the harsh realities of the UK's immigration policies.
Actual island.
And by the way, didn't you just come across the Channel? A lot of water in the Channel. But I mean, overarchingly, we'll get to the barge and we'll get to the details now. Overarchingly, Isabel, it seems to me that Labour have told the nation a great big lie, and that they never had any intention of stopping the migrants, and that we're in now a process of mass assimilation. You know, we've got 70,000 migrants, possibly as many as 120,000 who were earmarked not to be given asylum, some of them to be sent.
In contrast, Mohammed and Mahmoud managed to find alternative paths. Mohammed returns to Calais and reapplies for asylum in France, hoping for a more favourable outcome. Meanwhile, Babak, who was apprehended during his attempt to cross, eventually manages to leave the UK for France. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
Asylum seekers, illegal migrants. We should all ask ourselves why people are going or are entering England. Because where they're coming from, it's hotter. It's so hot. The issue is about leadership. If we don't address the leadership policies in Africa, in Madagascar, in those countries, poor countries, and we leave dictators to stay in those countries and become corrupt, they eat all taxpayers' money, and they don't put the opportunities for these younger generations. There's no freedom. You can't chase your dreams. You start a business and it collapses within a week or a month because of high taxes in these poor countries. And the money, the tax money, is embezzled by big people in governments. And these England, US, those white countries, they don't put their measures to stop these corrupt leaders or these dictators from stealing their people. And if the people see that nobody's there for our rescue, then let's go, oh, there, maybe they will listen to us. You see, this, it is not a simple issue. People have lost their lives. I told you 3 children were killed And the guy, they say, he was born to a Rwandan parent. And in Rwanda is where UK proposed to take immigrants. And you've heard, people don't want to go there. I'm from Africa. Rwanda is from Africa, is in Africa. It is the same like my country. So why could I go in Rwanda? I have come here. So now the issue is, should these immigrants be sent back to their countries? Because some of them don't have documentation that show where they came from. Where will you take them? We take them to Rwanda, we take them to the floating boat and start staying there. Why should we do? Let's address the core issue. It's leadership, African leadership. If we work on leadership and we fight for freedom, we fight for we fight for opportunities, we fight for our dreams, we fight for good governance. Really, people will not love to leave their homeland to come to England and other countries. There is an issue that must be addressed. All this to end.